If I had a penny, nickel, dime, quarter, or dollar, or any denomination for every time something happened, my business would already be supersized. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, and our idiom today is, of course, if I had a penny for every time this happened, if I had a nickel, a dime, a quarter, whatever the saying happens to be. I think nickel is probably the most common phraseology or use of this particular idiom. But this idiom dates back quite a ways. It goes back, of course, to the time of Mark Twain. He used it in his Follow the Equator book in 1809, as well as other people being attributed with using it. It's became really popular, I would say, in the 18 and 1900s, and as movies and media became more popular, it was in some strange movie. I'd have to use my magnifying glass to see what I wrote down. I've never heard of. Dr. Doofenshmirtz or something used it in Across the Second Dimension in Phineas and Ferb, the movie. No idea what that is. I guess it's way past my time, but it became really popular in cameos, in quotes, in movies, in memes, in TV tropes and things. In 2019 and 2020, for some reason, it really took off and became really, really popular. And what it means is that it's used to describe something that happens frequently. So I like to think of things like politicians lying. If I had a dime for every time a politician lied, if I had a dime for every time the media misrepresented or didn't tell the truth on television nowadays, my business would totally be supersized already. Every time something happens, somebody does something, said something, did something that happens frequently, you can use this expression. Now, I've definitely used this expression before. I don't remember the particular circumstances, but I'm sure I've used some version of this before. And I would always say dollar, because if you're going to go for some kind of compensation for any time something happens, you might as well make it higher rather than lower, a penny. So every time something happens. Now, you might have things like, I don't know if you did in your house, but when the kids were teenagers, we had a quarter jar. And on the counter, there was a jar. And every time somebody swore, mom and dad included, a quarter went in the jar. And we use that just for fun things. I like to use a gratitude jar nowadays more than a quarter jar and try to curse less. But the concept's the same. It's recognizing every time something happens, whether you want to increase the frequency of it or decrease the frequency of it. With respect to the swear jar, we want to, of course, reduce the frequency of swearing, so it was more of a punishment than a reward. This idiom speaks more to getting rewarded for something that ordinarily happens over and over and over again. There's, you know, if I got a dollar for every time something happened, every time somebody was late for work, every time somebody made a mistake, every time there was rain, whatever you wanted to use. But I like this idiom. I think it's useful. I don't know. I think it's easier to say this happens all the time, or what can we do to prevent this from happening, than it is to say, if I had a penny for every time this happened, I'd be rich, I'd be wealthy, or I'd have, I think in the movie, the Dr. Doofenshmirtz movie, it was, I'd have 2 dimes or something, and that wouldn't be very much, or something to that effect. It was a takeoff on this particular saying. Anyway, curious your experience with this particular expression or idiom. Have you used it? Have you heard it used? Can you think of a fun thing to use it to describe? Or share a fun thing that you would love to get rewarded for every time it happens. I would love to get rewarded every time somebody tells the truth, every time people live in accordance with their goals and objectives, every time people make the world a better place. I'd like to have a dime or a nickel or a quarter or a penny for every time that happens. So you can go either way with this one. All right, that's it. Have an awesome day. I will be with you tomorrow with another money idiom for the month of November. Until then, have an awesome day, and may you run into some nickels, dimes, pennies, and quarters that help you to supersize and grow your business. Have an awesome day.